The whole course of human history may depend on a change of heart in one solitary and even humble individual. For it is in the solitary mind and soul of the individual that the battle between good and evil is waged and ultimately won. That was said by Dr. Morgan Scott Peck, author of the book The Road Less Travelled. Mr. Peck died in 2005. Welcome to Surviving the Matrix. My name is Max Igan. I'll be your host for the next hour. Now, folks, on last week's show, we did quite a large show on swine flu. Most of the program was dedicated to swine flu, and this show is again going to be dedicated mostly to swine flu. The swine flu pandemic, the so-called pandemic that is apparently running around the globe rampant at the moment, is completely contrived, folks. It's even doubtful that there is even a real pandemic in progress at the moment. And it doesn't really appear that this pandemic is going to become full-blown until people start taking the vaccinations that are being released by Baxter Labs for people to take. Now, the World Health Organization is set to declare the deadly flu virus a global concern and is set to declare a worldwide pandemic. Should they do so, the World Health Organization, WHO, has the power to actually take over countries. Now, this is how the United Nations controlled New World Order, the first manifestation of a global government, is to be brought into effect. This is how they plan to do it. The Emergency Committee of the WHO in Geneva has declared it a public event of international concern, and they just seem to be escalating things from there. Now, as I said last week, if you're over 40, you've seen this routine before. The year was 1976. The government created absolute hysteria over swine flu, and it tried to herd everybody into mandatory vaccinations. The vaccinations killed and disabled numerous people, and then they were discontinued. And now the mechanics are the same. The mechanics that they're using to bring this pandemic to world attention and to create this pandemic, which it's mostly hype, folks. It's really mostly hype. But all the mechanics are the same. And I went through last week. I showed you the 3 points that the United States has used, that it can use to basically lock down the whole United States and knock down the travel of everybody in there and control pretty well everybody by declaring a pandemic and by using the swine flu as a means to restrict the movements of people under their protection, of course. Now, it's ridiculous, folks, what they're doing. It really is ridiculous. And what you need to do is you need to speak out and inform others and begin to take positive and empowering steps to deal with the situation. And fortunately, some people are doing just that. One such individual is an Austrian journalist by the name of Jane Burgermiester, who is, as I said again last week, this woman is pursuing criminal charges against the WHO, against the United Nations, and against high-ranking officials in the United States government. And she has charged them with propagating a virus and attempted to release a pandemic upon the world. She also claims to have evidence to prove her claim, and she has made this evidence available to the public should anyone else wish to follow in her footsteps. Folks, Jane Burgermiester is one very brave and very informed woman, and it will be my absolute pleasure to have her on for the latter half of the show to be my guest to talk about this extraordinary turn of events. And this really is an important issue, folks. I mean, make no mistake about that. This is not just any wild conspiracy theory. We have reports coming out of Russia now saying that the swine flu was created in a lab. We've got reports coming out by Reuters from Geneva that saying that the H1N1 virus has killed more than 700 people since emerging in April, and that it is the fastest moving pandemic that the world's ever seen, and saying that it's now pointless to count every case. So therefore, you read between the lines here, folks. They're saying they're not going to report any new cases of it. So we don't really know. We don't really know whether people are actually being infected by this thing or whether there just aren't as many cases as they tell us. The whole thing is being done through media hype, and they've just put themselves in a position where they don't actually have to keep us informed of the facts. So it's just being picked up by the media, and they're just sort of running with it, and they're going to push everyone into a fear mentality where everyone is going to be so scared they're going to run off and get the vaccinations. And the vaccinations are what is going to hurt people. The vaccinations are how this virus is very likely being spread. Now, it's very significant that our governments are expecting us and asking us to accept a vaccination created by Baxter Laboratories, a company who at this very moment is facing criminal charges for releasing a contaminated vaccine. Now, Leonard Horowitz was saying this has been done for financial reasons and possibly even more insidious reasons, but definitely there is a financial motivation in this. And this also is very much what Jane Burgermiester is saying. It seems that they've released the pandemic in order to be able to promote their new vaccination. You know, they release these viruses and then they say, oh, look, we've got the cure for it. If you go and have a look and actually look at the history of the WHO, you'll find that they applied for a patent on this vaccination in 2007. So it sounds like they were pretty well planning on doing this way back then. I mean, no one had ever heard of this virus in 2007, and yet here you have the WHO already applying for a patent on the vaccination. But of course no one would take the vaccination for a disease that didn't exist, so it seems that, well, they thought it was a good idea to create the disease and release that as well. And there is no doubt that this is how it happened, folks. The 72 kilos of contaminated vaccine released by Baxter in February is very likely the source of this virus. Now, we really do have to get onto this, folks, on a grassroots level. There are Facebook groups that have opened up. You'll find links to them all from my website. Take the swine flu action page and have a look. You'll find there's a site called vaccination.com. I'll be putting a link there to that as well today. I would highly recommend that you join these groups and put what information you can there to help them, and start getting some sort of a grassroots action together to start addressing this by legal means. And like I said earlier, it was almost 2 years before the outbreak of swine flu in Mexico City, which also happened about 50 kilometers from a Baxter facility. But it was about 2 years before that outbreak that Baxter Labs actually applied for a patent on this vaccine. So it sounds very much like this has been planned for a very long time. In the United States, we're seeing states like Florida, which is now saying they are preparing for a huge swine flu shot program. They believe that they may end up averting a crisis, of course, is what they're saying. But the Florida Surgeon General says that the state is preparing for massive swine flu immunizations, starting with school children, as the Obama administration urges people to prepare for the likelihood that the virus might worsen in the fall. I would suggest that the virus probably will worsen, folks. The more people have the vaccine, the more the virus will worsen. This is the way it always goes down. But Florida is already planning for such vaccinations. They're saying that they've got something like 100 million doses of regular winter flu vaccine at the same time, and they're going to be vaccinating with swine flu vaccine as well. Folks, this is incredibly dangerous. This is incredibly dangerous what they're doing. And remember, this vaccine is untested, and it comes from a laboratory that is currently facing criminal charges for releasing contaminated vaccine that is very, very likely the actual source of the swine flu. So you need to be aware of this, folks. You need to make other people aware of it as well. Do not accept the vaccine that these governments are offering you.